All right, as you know, this summer at FloWrestling, we're trying to figure out the best wrestler of the last quarter century at all 10 NCAA weight classes. This week, we're breaking down 149 pounds. But first, here's how we came to this conclusion. Our FloWrestling staff, we took a look at all the NCAA champs over the last 25 years, and we ranked them. We said, here's who we think are the top four. Each of us got a vote. We added up those points. That's how we figured out our top four. Then we put the vote to you guys, the fans. You guys filled out the poll. We factored that in. That's how we came up with the top wrestler at each weight class for the last quarter century. This week, we're looking at the 149 pounders. And before we get into the top four, let's talk about some of the best wrestlers who didn't even make the top four. And at 149, there were a whole bunch. We had some guys who we evaluated at different weight classes. Yanni Diakomahalis, Kyle Dake, those guys were four-time NCAA champs, but we assessed them at different weights. You already know Yanni, he won at 141 last week. We'll get to Dake later on in this series, but we didn't assess him at 149. Another guy that could have been assessed at 49, but we assessed up a weight at 157, Austin O'Connor, a two-time NCAA champ, four-time All-American. We looked at him at 157. One of the best guys to not make the list, Dustin Schlater of Minnesota. He was really integral for the Gophers, and he won a title as a true freshman. And not only did he win, he outscored his opponents 39-2 as a true freshman to win an NCAA title. He went on, had some bumps and bruises, had some injuries that he had to deal with, which was unfortunate. Dustin Schlater, one of the best to not make the cut. Another absolute beast at 149, Zach Esposito, won one NCAA title for Oklahoma State, but he was a really big part of four NCAA team titles for the Cowboys. Without a guy like Zach Esposito, who knows if they get all four of those team titles. One of the biggest recruits coming out of high school at 149 pounds was Jesse Jansen for Harvard. He had three absolutely phenomenal years for Harvard, was an NCAA champion, lived up to the billing that he came out of high school with, and he showed you can get it done in the Ivy League. He repped for Harvard and was incredible. Another 149 pounder that didn't quite make the cut, but was so good and so close was Frank Molinaro. He was a two-time NCAA finalist, an NCAA champion as a senior with an undefeated season. He was a part of that first wave of that new Penn State dynasty, went on to go to the Olympics. He was this close to a bronze medal, finished fifth at the Olympics. Frank Molinaro, absolute beast and a guy you would not want to have to face. Another Gopher on this list, we already talked about Schlater, but Jared Lawrence. He helped the Gophers win two NCAA team titles. He got a title of his own. Jared Lawrence now doing incredible things on the club coaching scene. Jared Lawrence, absolute beast. Could have made the top four, was just outside. Caleb Henson's career isn't over yet. And if this was a little bit different window in time, who knows? Maybe he'd be in the top four, but he still has another year remaining. Already a two-time NCAA finalist for the Hokies and a one-time NCAA champ. Caleb Henson has only finished fifth place. That's his low water mark. This guy, so good. And he's still getting better. He has another year to go. Caleb Henson, not done yet. This close to being in the top four. All right, finally, we're into our final four, our top four 149 pounders of the last quarter century. We'll introduce these chronologically. Starting off, it was Eric Larkin of Arizona State. He finished 4, 3, 2, 1 in consecutive order, got his title as a senior in a really dominant, undefeated season. Not only did he win and have an undefeated senior season, but he was a Hodge Trophy winner. He was the first Hodge Trophy winner at 149 pounds. Eric Larkin absolutely deserves to be on this list for Arizona State. The next guy in the top four is Iowa Hawkeye legend Brent Metcalf. Don't forget, Brent Metcalf only got to compete for 3 years because he followed Tom Brands from Virginia Tech to Iowa and lost a year of eligibility in that transfer process. In 3 years, Brent Metcalf was in the finals 3 times. He won 2 titles, was a Hodge Trophy winner, and honestly was one of the most feared wrestlers you can even think of. Brent Metcalf struck terror into the hearts of his opponents, and he really was the face of that first wave of Tom Brands era Iowa Hawkeye wrestling. Absolute beast. He's got a Hodge. That's why he's on the list. Metcalf won his NCAA titles in 2008 and 2010. And while he did get better throughout his career, that 2008 bracket was actually voted on by our FloWrestling staff as the toughest bracket ever. You can watch a whole mini documentary about that bracket. It was absolutely stacked. 6 NCAA champions in that weight class. Metcalf got the title there. So not only was he ultra consistent and really, really good, but he won probably the most loaded NCAA wrestling tournament bracket of all time. The next guy on this list is really interesting because he was only a 2-time All-American and a 1-time NCAA champion. Darian Caldwell, though, at his high watermark, was as good as anybody in the sport of wrestling. I mean, he not only beat Brent Metcalf in the NCAA finals, he beat him 1 time earlier as well. That match over Brent Metcalf in the 2009 NCAA finals was one of the most dramatic NCAA championship matches that I can think of ever. It had everything that you'd want to see. Crazy action from Caldwell and Metcalf, but then, of course, the shove at the end. But Darion Caldwell was just a talent unlike anybody we've seen before. And really, of all the weight classes we've evaluated so far in these first 4 weights, he's the first guy to make the list as one of the top 4 just because of really 1 year and 1 standout performance. Darion Caldwell absolutely deserves to be on this list despite just the 1 NCAA title and 2 All-American finishes. By the way, that NCAA title and 2 All-American finishes, that's not all Caldwell did in his career. He was 109-13 for NC State during his 4 years. And he had close to 60 falls. I mean, that is unheard of, crazy dominance. And at his highest, he beat Metcalf on the biggest stage possible. That's why Darion Caldwell is on this list. The 4th and final member of the top 4 at 149 pounds is Zane Rutherford, one of the most dominant wrestlers of the last 25 years, regardless of weight class. He only had 3 losses in his entire career. He lost to Logan Stever twice, and he lost to Mitchell Port. Those losses came when he was a true freshman. A year earlier, he was still in high school, raising his hand when he needed to go to the bathroom. And by the way, he also beat Logan Stever as a true freshman. After that, redshirted, went on to win 3 straight NCAA titles, 3 undefeated seasons, 2 Hodge trophies, this close to winning 3 Hodge trophies. Zane Rutherford was an absolute beast on top. Brent Metcalf, in fact, in his interview with Andy Hamilton for the article that's going to come out to announce the winner, even mentioned that Zane Rutherford's top wrestling, not to be trifled with. Metcalf paying a whole lot of respect to Zane Rutherford, and rightly so, because what he did on the mat was undeniable, unreal bonus point stats. Zane Rutherford absolutely deserves to be on this list. All right, so the results are in. What happened? What did you guys and our FloWrestling staff decide? Let's start at number 4. 4th place at 149 pounds, the 4th team all-quarter century member. It's Darion Caldwell, the NC State Hammer, and one of the most electric and dynamic point scorers that we've seen in this weight class for the last 25 years. Coming in 3rd place, it was Arizona State's Eric Larkin, a Hodge Trophy winner, very deserving to be on this list, and maybe would have been a little bit higher if he's compared to a different field, but the top 2 guys at this weight class were pretty clear. Coming in 2nd place was the 2-time NCAA champ, the 3-time finalist, Brent Metcalf, absolutely a dominator, so feared throughout his college career, very deserving to be in that number 2 spot. And like Larkin, could have been higher, but man, this weight, so loaded. And we had a pretty clear number 1. Taking home the top spot in really dominant fashion, just like he dominated a lot of his opponents throughout his career, Zane Rutherford. He was 126-3 in his college career. He won his last 3 seasons without losing a match. 2 Hodge trophies, could have been 3. Zane Rutherford, your clear champion, the clear representative at 149 pounds on the FloWrestling all-quarter century team. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Next week, we're breaking down 157 pounds. And by the way, we got great wrestling happening on FloWrestling all summer long. Fargo's just around the corner. We got a bunch of stuff coming up on that. So keep it locked to FloWrestling all summer long.